to 6:45 now to the race for the White House. Both candidates spending the night in Pennsylvania trying to win over voters in that very important swing state. Both now headed to the Midwest for events. Our Joe St. George is live in Washington for us this morning, taking a look at what is happening over the next couple of days in the race. Want to start with former President Trump. We know he's going to take part in a Univision town hall later this week. Polls, you're telling us, show he is doing fairly well amongst Latino and Hispanic voters. So what does that mean?
If Donald Trump ends up being the president-elect again after this election, it may very well come down to the Latino and Hispanic population. It makes up about 10% of the vote in Virginia, about 10% in North Carolina. I know we have some of our viewers in North Carolina. Blaine, Latino Hispanic population's been the fastest growing segment of the North Carolina population really since the 1990s. So I think a lot of people think Latino Hispanic vote, oh, it matters in Arizona and Florida. No, it matters pretty much everywhere nowadays. And that is going to be consequential in Virginia and North Carolina elections too. All right, back to the numbers and what you were alluding to. The latest New York Times Cena College poll has Harris still winning the vast majority of Hispanic and Latino voters, but she's under 60% in support. Trump is close to 40% in support. That matters because the last time a Democrat was under 60% when it comes to presidential politics was 2004. John Kerry. What happened there was a blowout. Kerry lost badly to George W. Bush in that election. And a lot of political scientists from Norfolk to Washington are saying that if Trump is able to pull off 40%, north of 40%, it's just going to be very hard for Harris to make that up in any meaningful way. And you may be wondering, well, what about all that anti-immigration rhetoric that Trump has been talking about on the campaign trail? The New York Times asked that question to respondents, and the vast majority of Hispanic Latino respondents said they didn't believe that Trump was talking about them when he talks about those anti-immigration policies. An interesting tidbit in a very interesting segment of the population that I think is going to play a big role come election night, Blaine.
Of course, we know you'll be watching that. Want to turn our attention to the other side of the race now. Vice President Harris spending a lot of time in Michigan this week. So what's the deal there? Why has her campaign decided that that's going to be a big focus?
If you're a Democrat waking up with us in Norfolk or Suffolk or Virginia Beach and you're saying, all right, how is Harris going to win this thing? Most people will point to what is known as the blue wall, the blue Midwest Great Lakes states of Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. Blaine, you add up those three states together, that's going to get her 270 electoral college votes most likely if we think everything else is going to break down the way it will. It won't matter what happens in North Carolina, or it won't matter what happens in Arizona if Harris is able to pull out Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. She has some problems in that her numbers are trending in the wrong direction. The winds tend to look to be shifting slightly in Trump's favor. A number of polls, though, still have her ahead. How consequential is Michigan? 15 electoral college votes. But, oh, by the way, it's a state that also exposes a lot of some of her vulnerabilities with polling. White male Midwest voters has been an issue, certainly plenty of them in Michigan. And also, Dearborn, Michigan is home to the largest Arab American population per capita anywhere in the U.S. The Israel-Palestine conflict, the Biden-Harris administration's role, that is playing a big role on voters' minds there as well. We're keeping an eye on all of it, Blaine, in the last 20 days, whether it's Latino, Hispanic voters in North Carolina or Midwest voters in Michigan. Eventually, we'll get the formula to see who's going to be president of the United States come January 20th. 20 days to go and change, my friend. Buckle up.
All right, it's going to be a wild next 3 weeks. Joe St. George, thanks for giving us that insight live this morning from Washington.